The first morning I noticed the water on the bathroom floor, I blamed the pipes without thinking twice about it, because old apartments always have their little problems, and mine was the kind of place where the walls clicked at night and the plumbing groaned like it was trying to remember how to breathe. There was only a thin spread of water around the base of the toilet and a few faint footprints that looked more like smudges than anything clearly human. And since I live alone and had lived alone for months without incident, I wiped the floor dry with an old towel, muttered something about humidity, and went on with my morning as if nothing had happened. That night, however, I locked the bathroom door before going to bed, and although I told myself it was just habit, the same reason I double-check my front door and sometimes stare at the gas knob longer than necessary, there was a small, uncomfortable tightness in my chest that hadn't been there before. At exactly 3:07 a.m., I woke up without any clear reason, not with a jolt or a nightmare or even a noise loud enough to explain it, but with the slow, creeping awareness of someone who realizes they are no longer fully asleep. For a few seconds, I lay still in the dark, listening to the heavy silence that fills apartments in the dead middle of the night, and that was when I heard it, a soft, deliberate dripping sound coming from down the short hallway. Drip, drip, drip. It was unmistakably the bathroom tap. I remember staring at the ceiling and feeling an odd irritation rather than fear, because I was absolutely certain I had turned the tap off before bed, and yet old pipes do strange things. So after a moment of hesitation, I pushed the blanket aside and stepped out into the hallway. The air outside my bedroom felt noticeably colder, not freezing, but sharply different from the warmth I had just left behind. And although that should have bothered me more than it did, I was still clinging to the comfortable lie that this was nothing more than plumbing acting up. The bathroom door was still locked from the outside exactly as I had left it, the cheap brass latch hanging in place, and I remember feeling a small wave of relief before I even opened the door. When I unlocked it and pushed it open, the light flickered once before settling into its usual dull yellow glow, and the first thing I noticed was that the tap was completely closed, tight, dry, silent. But the floor was wet again. Not pooled this time, not spread randomly, but stepped in. Bare footprints, small, human, facing the toilet. I did not sleep properly after that. The second night, I decided to be practical about it, so I set a glass carefully against the bathroom door, an old simple trick that would fall and shatter if the door opened, and after checking the lock twice, maybe 3 times, I went to bed telling myself that in the morning I would probably feel embarrassed for even worrying. At 3:07 a.m., I woke again. This time to the unmistakable sound of the toilet flushing slowly in the quiet apartment, the heavy rush of water echoing down the hallway in a way that made the skin along my arms tighten despite every logical thought in my head. I lay completely still in bed, barely breathing, listening as the flushing sound faded into silence. Then came the dripping again. Drip, drip, drip. When I finally forced myself to stand and walk into the hallway, the air felt wrong in a way I still struggle to describe, because it was not just cold, but occupied, like the faint, lingering presence you feel when someone has only just left a room. The glass was still standing, perfectly balanced, exactly where I had placed it. My hand hovered over the lock for a long moment before I finally turned it and pushed the door open. Inside, everything looked almost normal. The toilet lid was up, even though I never leave it that way. The sink was dry again, but the mirror was fogged in the center, as if someone had been standing very close to it and breathing slowly against the glass. And in that fog were 4 faint streaks, finger marks from the inside. By the 3rd night, I stopped pretending it was the plumbing, because even I am not that good at lying to myself. So I ordered a cheap motion camera online and set it up on the hallway shelf facing the bathroom door, trying to laugh at the situation even though the sound came out thinner than I expected. That night, I slept with my bedroom door open and the hallway fully visible. At 3:07 a.m., I woke to complete silence. No dripping, no flushing, nothing, which somehow felt worse. I grabbed my phone and checked the camera feed, and for a moment everything looked normal. Empty hallway, closed bathroom door, no movement, and I almost relaxed. Then the bathroom light turned on slowly, not with the sharp flick of a switch, but with a gradual brightening, as if someone inside had turned the knob very gently. I was already out of bed before my thoughts caught up with my body. The hallway felt freezing now. The door was still locked from the outside. Still locked. My fingers were shaking when I opened it. The bathroom was empty. Completely empty. But the floor was wet again, and this time the footprints came all the way to the door and stopped directly in front of me, facing out. Night 4 was when everything finally broke. I didn't sleep at all. Instead, I sat on my bed with every light in the apartment turned on and the hallway in full view, determined that if something was happening, I would see it with my own eyes. At 3:07 a.m., the bathroom lock turned slowly on its own, with a soft metallic click that echoed far too loudly in the silent apartment. The door opened about 2 inches. The hallway air shifted with that same cold, occupied feeling. Then the door closed again, and the lock slid back into place. I did not move, because in that moment I understood something that made my stomach drop. The lock had turned, and I had not touched it. On the 5th night, I made the mistake that I think it had been waiting for. I spoke. It was 3:07 a.m. again, always 3:07, and the dripping had started earlier and louder, like the tap was no longer fully closed. I stood in the hallway staring at the bathroom door, my heartbeat so loud it seemed to fill the apartment, and before I could stop myself, I whispered into the dark, "Hello?" The dripping stopped instantly. The silence that followed was so complete it felt like pressure inside my ears. Then, from inside the bathroom, something shifted its weight with a soft, wet sound against the tile. I don't remember deciding to run. I only remember being back in my bedroom with the door locked, the lights on, and my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. This morning, I woke at 8:42 a.m., and for the first time in days, the apartment felt normal again, warm, quiet, empty, and I almost convinced myself the entire thing had been stress or lack of sleep playing tricks on me. Until I walked into the bathroom. The door was open. The floor was dry. The sink was dry. The toilet lid was down. Everything was perfectly normal. Except the mirror. Someone had wiped a clean oval into the center of the fog glass and carved 4 slow, uneven words into the condensation around it. Not drawn with fingers. Etched from the inside. You finally heard me. I am writing this now from my bedroom. It is 3:06 a.m. The bathroom light just turned on, and this time the footsteps are slowly, patiently coming down the hallway toward my door.